Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It's Thursday, July 10th, about 9:18 at night when I'm making this video, so this is probably coming out well after 10. Sorry I'm so late. My kids had the final regular season swim meet of the year. Not that you're interested in that, but still got a couple more tournaments before the season's completely over, and I shouldn't have these kind of nights anymore till school starts back up. But anyway, this is the video for YieldMax weekly paying dividend funds, ULTI and LFGY, ULTI being the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund and LFGY being the Crypto Industry and Tech Portfolio Option Income ETF. As always, just a reminder for the new people, I'm on X, formerly Twitter, at ETF_Inspector1. I let you know when the videos are out or going to be premiering, let you know if we're going to be running late because of a swim meet, everything like that. I repost if YieldMax says neat stuff like their distributions or the fact that they're going to be ringing the closing bell at the NASDAQ tomorrow, Friday. So keep an eye out for that. They even have a link for that. And a couple of our friends, right, Retire on Dividends and Health and Wealth, among others, are going to be there. So that's pretty cool. And I also post on the Zero DTE funds by Roundhill. I let you know what they're trading as soon as I find out, just in case you want to trade along with the pros. But let's get into our information. In general, it was a good day for both funds as far as values, right? Most of the stocks went up, or more went up than went down. So our overall funds increased, and that's pretty good, especially since they paid their not paid, but the amount of the distribution came out of our share price, and yet still went up on both of them. So definitely can't complain about that. We'll look at the individuals a little closer to see how things went. So we'll get started with ULTI, everyone's favorite. And we're going to answer the question everyone wants to know: did we make money today? It's not always the easiest question to answer because sometimes we'll make money one way and not the other, or vice versa. So we'll start out with trades. They had to put a lot of money to work, if you've been watching, because a lot more people buying in. And, big day today. Happened a day earlier than I called it. If you noticed in the thumbnail, we hit the 1 billion club. So here we'll scroll down. Value of the fund over 1 billion. 1,037 million. I guess I could have showed you up here. All right. But more money comes in and it doesn't sit around, right? If more money's in, more shares are out there, we got to make more money to be able to pay those people. So we got to put it straight to work, buying more shares of everything, just about everything we're in, with the exception of, if you saw on the thumbnail, we closed out our position in TQQQ, the triple leveraged fund. Although it's a triple leveraged fund, it had pretty low volatility as far as this fund is concerned. So TQQQ was at 51.5%, so it's on the lower end compared to most of what we like to do in this fund. So we sold that $32 million, but we bought the rest, just putting things to work. All right, from there, and this is a change. If you notice, I've been wanting to do this, I just kept messing it up, so I finally did it. I'm able to freeze these panes so you get to see the header even as I scroll. Okay, so the things that are not in orange is kind of like our symbolizes construction. I'll explain that more in a minute. The rest is just selling more calls and buying more puts to go along with the new shares that are in there. So for those, we don't need to worry too much about it. And people have asked, I got a lot of feedback. I appreciate so much all the feedback. I got tons of comments, probably the most comments on a video yet, giving me ideas on how to make things better or what people like. So trying to put them in action a little bit at a time. So AAOI, selling to go with the new shares, $83,000 profit. AMD closed out this week's spread and sold next week's spread. So they profited $331,000 on that. So that was a nice win. AppLovin and ASTS, or AST Space Mobile, both selling new options to go with the new shares, collecting $20,000 and $120,000 in profit. Coinbase, they had to roll, and when they did, as you can see, it was a loser. Had to pay almost $15 a share closing them out, but rolled the next week and cost us $760,000. But again, you just gotta take your wins and compare them to your losses. So, coin increased in value by 1.8 million, and it caused us to take a trading loss on options of 760,000. So that's why the fund manager said they're not that concerned when that kind of thing happens. They're still making out better. All right, First Solar went ahead and rolled, as you can see, paying 11 cents to close them out. It's going to be a win every time. Selling the new ones for much more, $250 to $280. So $498,000 collected. Robinhood was a roll. This one was not a win. So cost us $663,000. IonQ, another one closing out, not a win. Had to roll up and out to next week at a higher strike price. $360,000 loss on that. Mara Holdings, this is the bigger loss on this one. Closing out this week's lots and lots of contracts. Spending $1.4 million overall on that roll, having to roll up in strike price and out the next week. MicroStrategy rolled the next week. It was a loss, but it didn't hurt too bad just because we were able to collect decent premium since the volatility is increasing and because we're selling more options to go with the new shares along with it. So it was bad having to pay $10 a share to close out your calls, but we were able to mitigate that. It only hurt us $23,000 to the negative. Oklo and Palantir just selling new options to go with the new shares, $246,000 and $119,000 profits. Reddit was a roll that was a win, right? Closing out for 18, opening for 275 to 280, out till next week. Looks like it was a pretty. Oh, we rolled $5 closer, so $765,000 profit. Rigetti selling new options to go with the new shares, $110,000 profit. RH, I break this one down a little bit more for you. So RH is one of those ones that was a debit call spread, right? Different than all the other ones. We don't own any shares. It was just a debit call spread. So big picture, right? Everything totaled up comes to a negative $28,000. So it looks like a $28,000 loss. But I want you to look a little deeper on this because what we're looking at is to close out. Remember we said you put the whole investment in up front, and then when you close it out, a debit spread, that's when you make your money. Whereas the reverse, when we're selling the calls on the rest of the shares, we take in the most amount we could possibly get, but then we're going to have to spend to close out, and then we see how much we win at the end. So this was a debit call spread. We had lots of days where we said, hey, negative 100,000 here, negative 200,000 there, buying into this position. Well, we just closed it out, and so if we only closed it out, it's just these four lines, and that was a $3.7 million win. So great win there. The only reason it looks like a loss is because now we put that money to work buying into the next one. So we just bought the next debit spread for next week, and we were able to put basically $3.8 million into that investment, only spending $28,000 since we won so much. So then we're going to get to close that one out at the end of next week, and it's going to look like it cost us $28,000 and we're going to make millions. So hopefully, if they do it right. But so that's what we've been talking about for the whole week. I hope if you've been following along, you're catching on to what I'm talking about. SMCI was a roll. It was a loss, but not a terrible one. Well, I mean, I guess so. $200,000 to the negative. SMR, that's New Scale, and Tempest AI, just selling new options to go with the new shares, $186,000 and $32,000 profits. TQQQ, this would have been a win, right? Only paying 18 and 10 cents to close out, but we didn't roll. We didn't sell new ones because we sold all our shares. So if we were selling a new one, we'd have been collecting maybe around $1. So it would have been a nice win, but we sold all our shares. We collected $32 million selling the shares, and we just had to close out the options that cost $63,000. Upstart selling new options to go with the new shares, $84,000 profit. Vertiv Holdings, this is the second one here of the debit call spreads that we're closing out. All right, so big picture, it was a $3.8 million to the negative today, spend, right, on everything. But if we take a look at just closing out this week's, you see, because the roll is usually where we make all our money on the normal strategy, but this is not the normal strategy. This strategy puts all the big money in up front. So if we just were looking at the closeout, then that is buying to close for 14 cents, buying to close for 70 cents, and then selling the good side of it for 269 and 310, and that ended up being an $800,000 win. So again, nice win, but then we put a lot of money into basically the same bet next week, a new debit spread for next week, and we'll see how that closes out. We weren't ready to close out the Vista Corp one. We actually put more money into it. So, and I forgot to total that up, but that's a negative 800 and some thousand, 863,000. So all in all, on the trading day, it was negative 5,645,000. But if we just don't forget a couple of those, where that would have been a $3.7 million win if we just closed it out and didn't start the new one. And that would have been an $800,000 win if we just closed it out and didn't start the new one. So that's 4.5 million out of the 5.6 million right there. All right. We're going to move through the holdings a little faster than we have before, and I'm just going to see if people like it or if they say, hey, I want more of that information. So after today's increase, AAOI still has calls that are 2.6 and 6.1% out of the money. AMD is out till next week here with these, but they rolled the 144. Actually, no, they rolled both of them. So I just can't put the color up there to confuse it. So it went up too much, and they ended up rolling it. AppLovin, the decrease helped. It brought these calls back out of the money. It's going to make them a whole lot cheaper to close tomorrow. 0.34% out of the money on those. And then we already have ones till next week in play, but they're 6.1% out of the money. They won't be closing them tomorrow unless something major happens. AST Space Mobile had a decent increase today, but they are still nice and far out of the money, 9.17%. And then they have the same strike price for next week, so it's obviously the same percentage out of the money. Coinbase Global went up, and they were already in the money, so it took them too far. They just cut their loss. That's what the orange is. So if you remember, we talked about orange over here. So those were complete rolls. So they rolled the position, bought to close this week, sold to open next week's. First Solar down a little bit, and they decided to take the win on those and closed out the 1,900 contracts and started the new position for next week. And then they also already have some for next week, with the 170s being 2.97% out of the money. Robinhood went up pretty good today. Took them into the money, which was not good for them. So they closed them out. Again, took the loss. Left the 100 still in play for tomorrow. 1.3% out of the money. IonQ went up a little, but they were already in the money, so they just decided to call it a day, call it a week. Closed these 3,345 contracts out, rolled to next week. They still have almost 1,800 contracts in play this week that are 4.5% out of the money. They are looking like they should be a win. And we've got 51s already sold for next week that are 11% out of the money. LabU, the triple leveraged biotech fund, increased 1.7%, taking them into the money slightly, but they didn't do anything. They left them alone. So they're really they're 9 cents in the money. 68.09 on a 68. So if they stay flat all day tomorrow, they end up being 9 cents to close out. That's not bad at all. So smart move, leaving those be to let that time decay go. Mara Holdings went up a good bit, and it was already in the money to start, so it just took it even further. They gave up on them and rolled them out. Technically, I would call this yellow, right? It's not in the money. It's at the money would be the correct phrase. The 19s for next week, because that's where it closed. But the rest of everything that was for this week has now been rolled to next week. MicroStrategy up today, already in the money and went further in the money. They rolled the ones that were deeper in the money. We still have 415s in play that are going to have to get closed tomorrow. They're 1.6% in the money. Oklo was up today, but they're still 3.7% out of the money with one trading day left. They've also got calls out till next week already sold that are 2.8% out of the money. Palantir down a little, so it's a good thing when these went in the money yesterday that they didn't close them out, because another whole day ticked by and a decrease in the price, so that definitely decreased how much it's going to cost to close these out, but they're going to have to do it tomorrow. So 50 cents in the money, not the end of the world. It can still turn into a win. And then these 143s are 0.35% out of the money. They have rolled a portion to next week. These 145s are 1.75% out of the money. Reddit dropped today. They decided to take the win, closed out the ones that were deeper in the money, and left these 149s in play. They're already actually rolled till next week. So now everything for Reddit has been rolled to next week, and these current positions are 4.2% out of the money. Rigetti took the biggest loss today, down 3.55%. That helped with their 1350s, their largest, not their largest, 13,000. So they got a whole heck of a lot of contracts. They got over 3 million shares. So we've got 11,800 contracts and 8,000 contracts expiring tomorrow. They are 3.6 and 7.4% out of the money, both looking like wins. Keep your fingers crossed. Not that does anything. And they've also got 1450s already sold till next week that are 11.28% out of the money. All right, RH, we talked about this. They closed out the debit spread there. Nice win, rolled it the next week. And then for some reason they just had this extra 97 contracts sold at 215, right? Because that equals 15, what's that, 1590, 1602. So I don't know why they didn't close those last 97. But who knows? But so technically, if it, as long as it doesn't go up over 215, they won't have to pay to close those. All right, SMCI up a little. They went ahead and paid those. So let's take a look. 155. Let's do a quick check. SMCI 49s. SMCI buy to close 49s. 168 is what they paid. Yeah, so they did go up slightly, but 13 cents, not terrible. They still have 52s in play. They have to get closed out tomorrow. They're 3.26% out of the money. So if it stays that way, they will expire worthless. They won't wait till the end, so they'll hopefully just be able to pay pennies to close these out and roll till next week. New Scale SMR up, but not enough to go in the money. Still 4.11% out of the money on this week's 8,000 contracts and 5.5% out of the money on next week's 2,200 contracts. Tempest AI was up today, but still staying out of the money. 4% on those 62s and 4% again 62s for next week. But this is the one we're worried about right now because it's 5,900 contracts expiring tomorrow. TQQQ, like we said, sold all the shares, closed out all the options. Nothing to talk about there. Tesla was the biggest increase today. That helped me close out my TSLL puts I sold on Monday when they got in their little argument. So that kind of hurt. Took us in the money, 1.5% on these, but they are actually out till next week, so we don't have to do anything tomorrow. But it definitely doesn't feel nice going into a week already in the money. Upstart's our last hold underlying that we have holdings in. Small increase. 80s are still 1.2% out of the money, and then our 8250s for next week are 4.3% out of the money. Vertiv, that one kind of hurt us. Today's drop, almost 6% drop, that kind of stinks because we were doing great on that. That's why instead of being a multi-million-dollar win, it was just an $800,000 win, because that if that would have closed at yesterday's price, it would have been much nicer. But we closed those out, rolled them to next week, so we've got our new bet already placed. And then Vistra Corp only went down a little, but it's okay, right? Because we're basically capped. Well, it's somewhere between 197.50 and 205, but the vast majority is at the 197.50. So it's still sitting at 195.78. We're going to close this for a real nice win. As you can see, when the day started, these 170s were worth $6.2 million. So we're closing them tomorrow. It's not going to be an enormous change unless we get an enormous move in the underlying. So we're looking to cash out a nice big win on that debit call spread. All in all, the value of the fund went up $9.9 million, and that is not shown in that $1,037,000,000. That's based on the holdings before the market opened. So this is then what the market did. So we lost 5.6 million trading. Again, not all of it was a loss. A lot of it was placing our debit spread bets for next week. And we increased the value of the fund by 9.9 million. So that's why that, increased our fund overall price. That's why our fund price went up today. So not bad when you get your locked in for your distribution and increase on the same day. Okay, next we will move on to LFGY. We can get through them a lot quicker usually. So we go through our trades, slightly different strategy. They don't do a collar strategy where they buy the shares, buy puts to protect the shares, and sell calls. These guys don't buy puts. They just sell calls. Sometimes they will buy a call further out to cap the amount they could possibly have to pay to close it out. It starts out with shares themselves, just selling a small amount of shares from each stock within the fund. I totaled that all up just because I was curious. It came out to $2,135,000 collected. I wanted to see if there was reason behind that. This is, I'm thinking there was, right? So if you take what they collected from selling the shares, divide it by the amount of outstanding shares, it comes out to 51 cents, and they're about to pay 48 cents per share to the 41, or is it 41 million or 4.1 million? 4.1 million, sorry. But in any case, so they've got to be related. So they must have been selling those shares to come up with the money to pay us. Not the greatest situation to be in. We don't want to be having to get rid of stocks in order to pay us. So, the value of the fund still increased today. I'm sure people bought in. We got our nice distribution without losing stock price, but we don't want to keep doing that by selling shares. Okay, we don't go through all the each stock within its trades, because sometimes we got 4 shares, 9 shares, 7 shares, things like that. So the only ones we highlight are actual closeouts and rolls. First one being Circle. They took the win, right? Closed out their 270 total options contracts, but they only sold 266. So my bet is they sold about 400 shares of Circle. 352. Yep. So where'd it go? Oh, I accidentally skipped Coin. So that was $110,000 profit. Coin, different story. closing them was a loss, paying $21 and $10 a share, only collecting $7. So $1 million loss on the roll for coin. But again, right, if we took $1 million loss on coin, that's the closest I've seen it. We only made $1 million. Made $1 million, lost $1 million. It was like a $20,000 to the positive total. Lots of individual trades. A lot of these have to do with having to just close out. That's why it's all these buy to close. Closing out the options that went along with the shares that they had to sell. Next was NU. Profited $41,000 by closing out our 14s and selling 1350s for next week. Not really nothing special there. So it was a win, but like a 10-cent win. And finally, XYZ. We rolled that position as well. Bought the close for 8 and 10 cents and sold to open, or sold short for $28,000 profit. All said and done, we lost $881,000 trading today. As you can see, we made money value-wise, right? This is a realized loss. This is an unrealized gain. We increased in value. All right, a lot less stocks within the fund, so we'll get through them quicker. BitDeer was up today. They're already sold till next week, so not too worried about it. 2.5% and 6% out of the money. CleanSpark was up today, still 3% out of the money. These are getting closed out tomorrow, looking like a win, unless the stock goes up more than 3%. Coinbase, like we said, went up pretty big. Took these that were already in the money, deeper in the money, so that's why they had to close them out for the loss. We already have next week's 42 contracts. So we have a small portion sold till next week that are 1.6% out of the money. Core Scientific down a little, nice and far out of the money, 13.8%, but they're not going to close them because these are next week's, so they still have a lot of time value. Circle Internet Group, didn't I say we? I thought I said we rolled these. Yeah, forgot my orange mark. So we don't need to talk about those options. They're gone now. Galaxy up a little, just out of the money still, 0.44%. So these are going to come down to the wire. They're 9 cents out of the money. So they will still have some time value at the beginning of the day, but that will decrease throughout the day. And it's only 50 contracts. That's not the one we're worried about. We've got 1,100 contracts already moved to next week that are 5.3% out of the money. GameStop down just a little. These have already been rolled to next week. They're 1.7% out of the money. Robinhood up 4.4%. These have already been rolled as well, so they're out to the 18th. They're 1.7%. I missed that one. In the money. That's not good. Don't want to go into the week already in the money. Hut 8 Corp. Decent increase today. Luckily, they were well out of the money, so they're surprised they didn't close them out previously when they only cost 10 cents. So they probably went up in value today, but they will rapidly decrease because they're still 93 cents out of the money going into the last day. 4.2%. Man, I missed another one. Maybe I forgot to do this. Next week, they've got 22s already sold. Small contracts compared to what needs to get rolled, but they're already in the money by 0.3%. iBit was up 1.5% today, increased our value by $215,000. There's no options that get traded along with that. Mara Holdings up decent today. Yeah, I definitely forgot to. I think I got distracted. I was in the middle of doing this, and then everybody came out of the pool area ready to go home. So these are already till next week, and they're already 2.6% in the money. So not looking good. MBTX has 2 spreads. The first one is a credit spread on the calls. They are 3% in the money, so that's not good. They're surprising that. Well, I don't know why why these 285s would have been worth more than the 260s were going to cost. But who knows? That doesn't make sense. But anyway, they got worse today, so this will flop. The second one is a debit put spread. That's why I use blue, because we want this in the money, and I usually color it in the money red. I don't want to confuse you. So with the stock going up, that takes these further out of the money and decreases the overall value that we have there. Mercado Libre down today. That helped get us away from the money. Well, we got one contract left to roll, so it doesn't really make a difference. It's literally $600. We've already rolled the rest to next week. They're 6.9% out of the money. Yeah. That should be green. MicroStrategy down today, but they went too far in the money yesterday. We haven't made it up yet. We're still 2.7 and 2.1% in the money, and we will be closing these tomorrow. So unless they drop, these will be a loss. We're going to have to pay at least $11 to close these out, $9-ish for those. NU Holdings, the biggest loser over here today. They closed. They rolled these for a win, right? They were this week's 14s, 4,000 contracts, 7+% out of the money. So they closed them out, took the win, and sold out the next week. And we already have some for next week that are also 7.4% out of the money. NVIDIA up a little, still out of the money by 0.5%, but these are till next week, so we need basically the stock to not increase 90 cents over the course of the next 8 days. Opera up 1% today, still 1.5% out of the money, and again, these are all the way out till next week already, so we can't have this go up more than 29 cents in 8 days. PayPal Holdings up. Still 14 contracts left, so they rolled most, but still have a little bit left. $63. We don't even care. But then they've got next week's 76s that are practically at the money, 0.4% out of the money. Riot Platforms was up today. That shouldn't be green. It should be yellow. That should be red. These are getting closed tomorrow, 6,500 contracts. They're currently 3.26% out of the money, so it should be a win unless the stock hits that $13 mark. And Block down. They went ahead and closed those, rolled them. It was a win, rolled them to next week. All came out to an almost $3 million increase in value on the day. So we are now up to $165 million managed in the fund. There was 250,000 more shares added yesterday into today, bringing us up to 4,150,000. And this was the NAV as of the open this morning. Obviously, the stock increased to. It's pretty simple, right? We went up 2 to 3 million, divided by about 4 million shares. It adds 40-50 cents, which puts us right about at the closing price. Okay, that's everything. Looks like I took about 34 minutes, so that's better than yesterday's 41-42. Tell me if you liked this. I've been taking more and more information out. I used to tell you the change in market value, the change in percentage, the closing price, right? But I still have it on there, so if you want to pause, screenshot, whatever, slow-mo through just to see if you want even more information. But trying to keep it interesting and speed it up. So dad joke of the day is the last thing left. Before I do, just want to thank everybody. I appreciate everything, especially all the feedback on ways to make it better or what you like or what you don't like about it. Some people were jumping in and defending me. Obviously, I appreciate that, but I asked for it. So nobody was being mean. Everybody was just letting me know what they like. So I like that. One other thing I do want to ask, just if you could share, help me out. I said just share this, that I'm covering the Round Hill weekly pay-in funds, because those videos aren't getting very many very many views, and there's actually more money in them than in these. So there's got to be more investors, people that are going to want to see it. So, okay, that being said, dad joke of the day. It made the kids laugh before I came down here to read it. So let's see if I can get you guys to laugh. What part of the museum makes everyone sneeze? It would be the statues. I know it's dumb, but dad jokes are supposed to be. All right, good night, everybody. Good luck trading tomorrow. Hopefully you get to close everything out for a win, roll it the next week, make a profit. Either way, I'll catch you tomorrow with the closing trades and holdings for the week on everything. Have a good night.